Okay, in this video, I'm going to explain how to use the new version of Shelter Partner, and then after that, I have a few other things I want to talk about. The first is a new bounty system that allows developers to contribute to the app while also getting paid for it. Next is how you can sponsor Shelter Partner, and then after that, I want to explain how you can ask questions to other shelters or submit feedback or new feature requests or anything like that. So first, we'll log into the app. If you have an existing Shelter Partner account, you can just use that. If you don't and you're new to Shelter Partner, you can tap Create Shelter and then fill out that information and it'll log you in with your new account with demo data. So I already have an account. And once you log in, it should look something like this. I'm going to go over the four tabs really quickly, and then I'm going to go back to the beginning and explain in depth each tab. So there's the enrichment tab, which is where you interact with animals. There's the visitor tab, where visitors will be able to view the information for all of the animals in your shelter. There's the volunteers tab, where you can invite volunteers, remove volunteers, change their settings. And then there's a settings tab where you can change shelter settings, you can view stats, change account settings, change your password, log out. Okay, so the first tab is enrichment tab. This is where you'll take animals out, put them back. So to take an animal out, long tap on their photo, just like before. And it may bring up a pop-up, it may not. It depends on your settings. So in this case, it's asking for my name, and it pre-filled it because it already knows my name is Jared. So I'll tap confirm, and it turns orange. And now it says 0 minutes. When you're ready to put an animal back in their kennel, just long tap on their photo again. And it may or may not ask you additional questions when you put them back. It also just depends on settings. So in this case, it doesn't, and I can just close that. Now you can see the animal I just took out, Rocco Finn, now he's at the bottom of the list. By default, all animals are sorted by the last time they were let out, but again, you can change that in settings. By default, it's in simplistic mode, which displays the animal's name, their location, and the time since they were last let out. And then if they have like a symbol or color, like the green paw print, purple paw print thing, it'll display that. If you want more information on the animal, you can turn simplistic mode off and it'll look like this. This has the animal's name, their symbol, location, adoption category, behavior category, location category, medical category, volunteer category, any tags that you've added for the animals. And then it'll also display the time since they were last let out and the let out type and volunteer who took them out. So for example, if I take out Coda Finn and my name's Jared, now you can see it says 0 minutes and it says Jared. It would also say what they were let out for if it asked me for that. So for example, it would say 0 minutes exercise or 0 minutes playgroup or 0 minutes event. So I will put him back. I'm actually going to add a note to him also so I can show you this. Here's where you add tags. So I'll say energetic. You can also add a photo right here if you want, and I'll save. And now if you go down to Coda Finn, you can see now he has the energetic tag as well. It only displays the most popular 3 tags for every animal. And then if you tap the ellipses and then details, you can also see there's the note I just added. So I'm going to go back to simplistic mode to show you some other stuff. When you click on details for an animal, right now you can see that I can delete the photo, any of the notes, or any of the logs. This is only because I'm logged in as an admin, but you can change it in settings so that if other people are using your iPad or device or whatever, they won't be able to delete any information. And I'll show you how to do that later. So in the additional options, the next thing is this search bar. So I can say X, and now it's only showing animals with X in their name. You can also change what it's searching. So it was searching name, I can search location. Let's say I only want to see animals with C in their location. So now you can see all these animals are in C block. And you can choose a bunch of other fields. This doesn't persist, like it doesn't last. Like if you use a different device or even just like refresh the page, it doesn't last. It'll default to a blank search bar. If you do want it to last and you want to make more complex filters, then you would use user enrichment filter. So for example, I'll say name contains X, just like we did before, and then tap the save icon. And now you can see all these animals have X in their name, just like before. But if I refresh the page or use a different device, this filter will be saved for my account. You can also make a lot more complex filters with this. So for example, you could say name contains X and location contains A or location contains B. And because I selected this group with previous checkbox, it basically adds parentheses around those two. So in this case, it's name contains X and location contains A or B. And then you can tap save. And now you can see all these animals, their name has an X in it, and they're either in block A or B. So I'll delete these for now. And I'll filter out a few of the animals, because the next one is take out all visible dogs. This allows you to take out all the visible dogs, like it sounds like, and it may show some alerts like this or additional questions. And then when you tap confirm, all of the dogs that are visible will be taken out. And if you can't see the dog, they're not taken out. And then when you're ready to put them back, you just tap put back. And so this is nice if you do like play groups and you don't want to manually take each one out for that play group. If you know how to filter out that play group, then you just filter it out and take them out. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the enrichment view. The next tab is visitors. So this is just like before. Looks like I already have a filter for them. Otherwise there would be a lot more animals. But here visitors can view the details of any of the animals by tapping on their photo. And in this case, you can see you can also delete their photo or notes. This is only because you're an admin account right now and you haven't changed certain settings. But you can change settings so that visitors won't be able to delete anything. So it's pretty simple. I mean, this is pretty much it. At the very bottom of both the cats and dogs, you can do tap or start slideshow, and basically this will do a slideshow of the animals in your shelter. And it'll just randomly go through either the cats or dogs. So this is like if you have a TV or monitor in your waiting area, you can just have it as a display. So the next tab is volunteers. Here you can invite volunteers, remove volunteers, you can view details about them, change their settings. So I'll show you how you can invite a volunteer. You can go type in their first name, last name, their email, and then send invite. And this will email them with their own personal login credentials to your shelter, which will be restricted. So they won't be able to do a lot of things. Basically, they'll only be able to use the enrichment tab and have a few settings. You can delete volunteers by tapping the trash icon and tapping delete. And you can view the details for volunteers by tapping on their name. In this case, it says Josh Doe. You can change their name right there. You can see their email, and you can see some stats. Right now, it's 0 minutes for both, but if they did take any animals out, it would say the average log duration for this volunteer and the total time logged with animals. It'll also display the last time they were at the shelter. This is basically anytime they do anything on the app, it'll update this. And then there will be either a green dot or a gray dot next to their name. If it's green, it means they did something on the app. So basically they're at the shelter within the past hour. And then if you use Better Impact to manage your volunteers, you can do sync with Better Impact. And I won't go into a lot of detail, but basically just read this, click on that link, read that. And if you add a temporary username and password, which isn't your real username or password, it's a generated one, it'll give Shelter Partner temporary read access to your Better Impact volunteers, and that way it can automatically invite volunteers or remove volunteers based on your Better Impact account. And when you do that, it'll show a dialog so you can confirm and if you want to change anything before. And lastly is volunteer settings. So volunteers don't have access to most of their settings. You will do that on your end for them. So the first one is enrichment sort. By default, all the animals that volunteers see are sorted by the last time they were let out. You can also change that to alphabetical. Enrichment filter, this is the same filter thing as before, but it applies to all volunteers specifically, and the volunteers won't be able to remove it. Custom form URL, this one's pretty niche, but I'll explain how it works. So let's say you have a Google form or a Jot form that you already use with your shelter and you want to continue using that. You can paste the URL for that right here, and then when an animal is taken out and put back, the volunteer will have the option to fill out the custom form you already have set up when they put the animal back. This is actually grouped with a couple other settings. So you'll type the URL here, but you'll also need to make sure this setting, show custom form, is turned on for it to be displayed. And then also append animal data to URL. If this is turned on, it can allow you to pre-fill your custom form with data from Shelter Partner. So yeah, all those are pretty niche, but it's there if you want it. Minimum duration by default is 5 minutes, but if you take an animal out and you put them back before the minimum duration, it'll warn the user that they're putting it back before the minimum duration. And this is also grouped with a couple other settings. So let's see. Create logs when under minimum duration. If a volunteer takes out an animal and puts them back in 3 minutes, let's say, in this case, that's less than the minimum duration. And create logs when under minimum duration is turned off, which means that that animal will be put back in their kennel, but no logs will be created, so it'll basically be as if nothing ever happened. If create logs when under minimum duration is turned on, it will create a log for that animal, even if they're under the 5 minutes or whatever is set. Okay, allow bulk takeout. This is the button we saw earlier that said take out all visible dogs or take out all visible cats. If you don't want volunteers to be able to do that, then make sure that's turned off. Require let out type. When you take out an animal, it will show a dialogue with some optional questions. And you can turn this on if you want users to specify why they're letting an animal out of their kennel. So, for example, for exercise, or if they're in a play group, or if they're going to some event. Next is require early putback reason. If you turn that on, when the animal is put back in their kennel, if they're put back before the minimum duration, so let's say if they're put back 3 minutes after they're taken out in this case, before they put them back, it'll require them to select a reason that they're putting them back. So, for example, behavior, or sick, or they're too aggressive, or something like that. Require a name. We saw this one earlier. When we take out an animal, it'll require you to input your name. In this case, because it's volunteer settings and you've already inputted their name, it won't actually require them to type their name. It'll just record their name because it already knows what it is. Create logs. We already went over that one. We already went over those two. Okay, the last one is geo-restrict. So if you want to only allow your volunteers to use the app when they're physically at your location, physically at your shelter, you can turn on geo-restrict, and then you'll need to make sure you change the geo-restriction settings. So right now, you can see that circle, and if they're within that circle, they'll be able to use the app. If they're not within that circle, or even if they just don't allow you to see their location, they won't be able to use the app. And you can move this circle around like that, zoom in, zoom out. You can also center it on your current location. I'm not going to do this right now, but you could do that. And then you can also do address. So let's say the White House, and you can change the zoom level and the radius size. And now if users are not within that circle, they will not be able to use the app. And then make sure you tap save changes, otherwise they won't save. Yeah. And that's it for the volunteers tab. Last is settings. So there's shelter settings and account settings. Shelter settings are settings that apply to everyone at your shelter regardless. So if they're a volunteer, if they're an admin, everyone. And then account settings are specific to the email you logged in with. So I logged in with example@shelterpartner.org. So if I log in with that email anywhere else, the account settings will be the same, but not for any other account. So shelter settings. Scheduled reports. We'll add an example one. So example report. I'll add my email. And then you can select a frequency. So this will send all of the information from that frequency. So all of the logs, notes, photos, any information collected by Shelter Partner over that, in this case, month, will be sent to this email. And in this case, specifically on the first day of that month. If you do weekly, it'll only send the information that happened on Shelter Partner from the past week, or you could do from the past day. So I'll add that report. And I think I have it set to send at noon Central Time every day. And then you can swipe left to delete it. Cat tags. This will allow you to change what tags are visible when users add tags to cats. So you can say, example, add. You can change the order by long tapping on one and dragging up or down, and then you can delete by swiping left. Dog tags, exact same thing. Early putback reasons works the exact same way, but this is the options that volunteers or anybody has, when they're putting back an animal and it requires them to select why they put them back early. So right now it just says sick or behavioral, but you can add additional ones. Let out types: when you put an animal back and you're required to put, or no, when you take an animal out and you're required to say what you're taking them out for. These are the options. So playtime, exercise, you could add like play group or event or something like that. API keys. This one's pretty niche, but I'll explain how it works. Let's say you have some other software that you want to connect to Shelter Partner. Here's how you do it. So you'll add a key, tap add key, and it'll generate this random string of numbers and characters, which you will want to copy, and then you should probably paste that somewhere. Just save it somewhere. And then you can copy this cat's endpoint or the dog's endpoint, and this is just a URL. So if you take this URL and you paste in the random code that you just copied into the URL, it'll basically be a live feed of all of your data from Shelter Partner. So if there's some software that you want to be able to read from Shelter Partner, this is how you would go about doing that. And then you can also just swipe left to delete or create new keys. These are restricted. Each account is restricted to 1,000 requests per 30 days, which I think should be fine for most cases. If you decide that you want more, just let me know and I can probably just increase that. Okay, these next three are all grouped together. They're all similar. So automatically put back animals. So in this case, if an animal is taken out and let's say a volunteer forgot to put them back, and so they're just left out, and it was more than 12 hours, that animal will automatically be put back because this is checked after those 12 hours, which you can change. And in this case, it says ignore visit when automatically put back. In this case, the animal will be put back, but no log will be created. So it'll be basically as if the animal was never taken out in the first place. If you turn ignore visit when automatically put back off, it will put the animal back after the 12 hours, and it'll create a default log of 1 hour. And then lastly is how to connect your account. So because this is a ShelterLove shelter, you can paste in your ShelterLove API key and it'll start syncing automatically with ShelterLove. That's all you have to do. Before I was having you like email me and then I would set up like the filter for your shelter, and now it's just all automatic. So you paste in your key and it should sync. This syncs every hour, so if you paste it at like, let's say 9:30, your app won't start syncing until 10 because it syncs at the hour. So if you paste it and nothing seems to be happening, just wait until the next hour and it should work. And then below that is if you need more information, let's say you are using ShelterLove, but the API doesn't have all the information you need in Shelter Partner. For example, volunteer categories is one. Then you can also set up an email report from Shelter Partner or from ShelterLove to Shelter Partner, and that will allow more information to be ingested into Shelter Partner. And you can see how to do that by reading that. Okay, shelter stats. This is just stats that you may find interesting. Right now I just have one, but I'll add more as I think of any or people request it. So this one is time since animals were last let out, less than 6 hours, 6 to 24 hours, 1 to 2 days, or 3 or more days. And you can tap on any of the bars to view the details. You can also group them by species or color group. And then account settings. This is basically identical to volunteer settings, but it applies to your login. It doesn't apply to any volunteers or anybody else's login, just your email login. So there are a few differences. The first one is at the top where it says mode. Right now it's admin mode, which gives you access to all 4 of these tabs. But if you're, for example, using the app on like an iPad in your shelter and you want volunteers to be able to use the iPad, you can change it to enrichment, and now it's locked up to only the enrichment tab. So they won't be able to change any settings. And when you go into like the details, now you can't delete any notes or photos or logs because you're in enrichment mode, not admin. And then go to the switch to admin tab and retype in your password to get out of this. You can also go to visitor mode, which is the same thing, but it locks it down to the visitor tab specifically. So if you only use the device to allow visitors to view the animals, then you would do that. And then lastly, if you use it for both volunteers and visitors and you're okay with people switching between tabs, then you can do enrichment and visitor. And now they'll have access to both of these tabs. One other thing to note is that if you're doing it like this, where you have a central device and people are just able to use it, you will want to set up, I forgot what it's called, but it's a setting for the specific device. So for iOS devices, it's called guided access, and it makes it so they can't leave the app. So they're locked down to Shelter Partner. With Google devices or Android devices, I'm not sure what it's called, but I'm pretty sure they have some sort of setting like that. And then these middle settings are identical to the volunteer settings we already went over. They're just specific to your account instead. The last 4 settings are specific to this visitors page. So you can you can sort by alphabetical or you can sort by intake date. You can add your own custom filter to the visitor tab. So if you only want to show animals who are in block A, in this case, that's what it's doing right now. I'll delete that. So now you can see there's a lot more animals here. Slideshow size. When you do the slideshow, you can do either scale to fit, scale to fill, or crop to square based on your preferences or like screen dimensions. And then slideshow timer is the time between when it switches to the next animal photo. And then you can change your password, you can log out, you can view the wiki, view acknowledgements, and that is pretty much it. I'm sure there's something I've missed. There's a lot of customization to the app, but feel free to reach out with any questions or feedback. Now I'm going to talk about the bounty system, which I've started to implement. So if you're a developer and you want to help improve Shelter Partner, this will allow you to be paid for specific bounties. So I'll show you an example. So if you go to GitHub, this is where developers would contribute. And you can get to GitHub by going to the website and then tapping GitHub in the top right corner. And it'll look like this. If you go to the Issues tab, this is where you can work on stuff and get stuff assigned to you. So you can see Settings, Wiki Entries, Volunteer tab, Wiki Entries, and then each of these has a bounty next to it. So if you complete it, that is how much money you will get for completing it once it's approved. So $25 if you update the wiki with the settings entries. And I'll add a lot more of these as time goes on and as bugs come up or new features are wanted or anything like that. As a developer, you can also just create a new issue and then I will go over it and decide how much I think the bounty is worth if I think it's something that should be worked on. And then that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple. It is going through, it will be like official. Like if you earn more than $600 in a year, I will send you a 1099 for tax. So it should be pretty official. You can also view the bounties to be paid. It'll be monthly. So these are just examples. You can click the drop downs to see what they are consisting of. So John Doe is going to get $75 January 1st because he completed these 3 bounties. And that's pretty much it. Now I'm going to go over how to sponsor Shelter Partner. So if you feel like you can sponsor Shelter Partner and you think it's worth, then this will basically allow you to pay for bounties and help Shelter Partner grow faster and become better. So if you go to the website, it looks like this. It'll look different once I add this tutorial and more information, but in the top right corner, there's a sponsor button. And if you go there, it'll take you to the GitHub sponsor page. And this is all public. So if someone donates, either one time or monthly, it will be public and you will see how much money I'm getting. And as long as they don't select anonymous, it'll say who donated. And there's different tiers. So for example, $5 a month, you'll get a sponsor badge on your GitHub profile. And then more than that, so like 25 or more, you will be added to the website, your name and logo. And the size of it will just depend on the tier. You can also do one time, and you don't have to do the specific tiers I've laid out. It's just, you can also do like a custom amount. And this will help sponsor future development of Shelter Partner by allowing me to pay out bounties to other developers who want to earn money by improving Shelter Partner. And then one more thing, when developers are working on Shelter Partner, they don't have access to any data. It's a completely separate database, so they're able to see the code, but they won't be able to see any data of any shelters or anything like that. And yeah, so if you feel like you can donate, that would be very helpful to keep Shelter Partner, keep the progress of Shelter Partner going. And then the last thing is how you can like ask questions or submit feedback, basically a forum for Shelter Partner. So when you're on the website, if you tap GitHub, it'll take you here, and then you can go to discussions, and here's where you can discuss. So if there's other shelters, you can ask them questions and maybe they'll be able to answer questions before I get to it, or you can just read through other stuff. So if you have any ideas, maybe you'll put it in the ideas section, and other people, I think they can like upvote it. Maybe I'll put polls in here. If you have any questions, you can do it in the Q&A section. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. It's a very long video, but I hope this is helpful. And as always, if you have any feedback or any questions, feel free to let me know. And yeah, I think that's it.